Bonjour à tous et bienvenue dans ce deuxième épisode du Let's Play de The Stanley Parable. Alors la fois dernière, je ne sais pas si vous vous en souvenez, j'étais mort, mais mort dans la structure narrative du jeu apparemment, parce que j'avais pas trop d'autres choix. Et le narrateur m'avait dit qu'on oublierait tout après ma mort, que le jeu serait réinitialisé, mais j'y crois pas vraiment. Je pense qu'il va garder souvenir de ce qui s'est passé.
Stanley hoped that he would one day see weather.
Ok, c'est pas les mêmes dialogues, donc c'est déjà ça. Par contre, le temps de l'extérieur, je vois pas grand chose. Je commence à connaître le chemin par cœur, c'est amusant.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors,
allez, je
he
vais prendre la
entered the
gauche.
door on his left.
Parce que je suis curieux et que j'ai déjà pris 2 fois celle de droite et que j'ai traversé tous les chemins de celle de droite et que pour une fois je vais aller...
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Alors, comment résoudre une dispute avec un coéquipier, enfin un co-travailleur? Ok. Ça va trop vite. Alors il faut assurer un environnement calme et de détente. Oui bon, c'est vraiment une salle de réunion, tout ce qui est de plus basique. Sympa. Tout le monde est unique et vous encore plus. C'est quoi ce management à 2 balles? Enfin bon. Allons-y. Boum. Je sais pas ce que c'est, boum.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Oui, je les monte vers le bas, moi, les marches. Je suis un monsieur. Pire rien ici.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk?
Non,
All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy.
Mais non, j'ai juste
And then
voulu
something
descendre les
occurred to
escaliers.
Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went?
Oui, ça
And for
j'avais
that
remarqué.
matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm
on attend tous.
dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground.
Ouais. Bon,
Then
Stanley
he
est en train
imagined
de...
himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking?
Schizophrénie.
Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd, and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been.
Ouais, j'y crois pas trop.
My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
je sens que Stanley est en train de faire une petite prise de conscience. Ma vie, elle est pas très normale et pas très bien.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss, I have an office, I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real, I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Ce jeu devient vraiment bizarre. Enfin, c'est cool en même temps, c'est ce qu'on lui demande.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
Non, je veux Stanley.
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy, this much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't.
Plus pour longtemps.
It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Ok, Stanley est mort. Bon. C'est pas que je commençais à m'attacher à lui, mais... Stanley, c'est toi? Ok, je suis censé être mort.
Just a step through this door, Stanley thought to himself, that's all I need. If I can make it through this door, I can make it through them all.
Waouh. On a toutes les pensées philosophiques de la vie. Oula, c'est bizarre, franchement. Oui, je peux franchir toutes les portes. Est-ce que je peux franchir celle-ci aussi? Non, celle-là non plus. Bon ben, j'ai réussi à franchir celle de mon office, mais pas toutes. Dommage. Pourquoi ne suis-je pas mort sur un trottoir?
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly
oui, je
well.
vais m'arrêter pour
Perhaps he
m'admirer.
wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
On va faire comme
the
ça.
The lounge was sublime, a work of art. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
J'ai vraiment une impression de déjà vu.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Yatta!
But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death.
C'est à peu
Good
près
job,
exactement
Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
Non, en vrai, c'est pas que je voulais montrer que je suis au contrôle de l'histoire, parce que je le suis pas, et le narrateur aura toujours le dernier mot, et ça je le sais parce que c'est scénarisé. Je voulais juste voir ce qui se passait. Juste de la curiosité qui a tué le chat, comme disent les Anglais.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors,
Allez, on est
he
reparti.
entered the... This was not the correct way to the meeting room,
On pourrait
and
courir,
Stanley knew
Stanley,
it perfectly
ça
well.
m'arrangerait bien.
Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Standing now in this incredible room, Stanley for the first time understood true
C'est pas
happiness.
la même...
Then the feeling went away, and he felt sad again. Then it came back, and lingered for a minute or two. Now it's only half there. Just a kind of, tingle.
C'est pas les mêmes dialogues que la fois dernière, dis donc. Bon.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Si je me... J'hésite à me rejeter. Si je me rejette encore une fois, peut-être qu'il va se passer autre chose. Ou peut-être que le narrateur va me dire Stanley pensait qu'il allait se passer autre chose.
But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death.
Je suis désolé.
Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
Je suis intelligent. Bon, cette fois-ci, je vais éviter de me jeter.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him. When Stanley came to a set of 2
C'est
open
pas vrai,
this
je suis
was not
quelqu'un de
the correct
totalement
way to the meeting
indépendant.
room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first.
Alors ne vous inquiétez pas, je vais pas me jeter de la plateforme une troisième fois.
Lightheaded, butterflies in his stomach, giddy in a way he had never known before.
Qu'est-ce qui se passe, Stanley?
Was it this room? A connection between the two? Could a man love a room?
Bien sûr.
I mean, truly, truly, deeply,
non.
madly.
Peut-être pas.
Love.
Peut-être pas à ce point-là. Enfin, aimer follement une pièce, c'est...
Yes, really,
c'est assez
really
étrange.
But eager to get
Allez,
back to
c'est
business,
reparti.
Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Non. Oui, je sais, je peux pas suivre des décisions et je vais me faire virer. Allez, cette fois-ci, on va suivre la plateforme.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her.
C'est qui?
This is it,
C'est une
Stanley.
demoiselle?
Your chance to redeem yourself, to put your work aside, to let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
Et c'est qui? Une pièce noire, ouais, cool.
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this, to reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another, then pick up the phone.
Non, je veux pas placer ma foi dans quelqu'un d'autre. Je peux débrancher le téléphone. Bon bah, on va faire ça. Oui, allô?
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Oh.
Gotcha. Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something.
Oui, mais
Come
tu es assez
inside.
méchant, monsieur
Let me
narrateur.
show you what's really going on here.
Ok. Non, j'ai pas vraiment envie de ça.
Sorry, but you're in my story now.
Oh. Non? Je vais juste attendre dans le couloir, je m'en fiche. J'ai pas envie de savoir ce qui se passe ici. Pourquoi il y a un mannequin femme?
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
Ouais, j'ai déjà entendu parler de cette histoire. Veuillez appuyer sur la touche 6 de votre clavier. Non, j'appuie sur la touche R. 7, 8, 7, 6.
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
Est-ce que tu essayes de me dire que je suis en train de jouer à un jeu et que ça me rend insignifiant? Est-ce que je suis en train de bien saisir la chose? J'appuie sur 6. P, O, I, U. Bon ben... Z. Je pourrais aussi éteindre le jeu et puis il serait bien nu, mais j'ai envie de savoir la suite et je m'en fiche que mon existence soit insignifiante, d'ailleurs.
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work.
Ah,
One might even
j'ai
feel
pas de
sorry
boulot.
for him, except that he's chosen this life.
Et oui, c'est la vie que j'ai choisie, et puis ça me va très bien. En fait, je suis un peu un Stanley, c'est ça que le jeu essaie de nous faire comprendre. Hop là.
But in his mind, in his mind he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful. And each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him.
Est-ce que le jeu essaye de me faire choper une dépression ou quelque chose du genre? Non, j'y tiens pas trop, j'aime pas regarder la télé. Est-ce que je ne peux pas juste partir? Bonjour madame. J'ai pas envie de regarder la
And
télé.
so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly.
Oh, ok. Passer du temps avec les enfants. J'ai pas d'enfants, j'ai même pas de femme. Enfin, une femme mannequin. Ça m'étonnerait qu'elle donne naissance à des enfants un jour. Oui, c'est ce que je disais. Bon, on va passer du temps avec les enfants mannequins.
So he went further. He imagined that he came to two open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold.
C'est vrai que c'est un problème dans les jeux vidéo un peu trop linéaire. Je ne pense pas à un certain jeu vidéo de FPS bien connu, style arcade, où là on n'a absolument pas le choix de gameplay émergent. Mais là ça fait plaisir d'avoir un choix, mais au fond est-ce que c'est vraiment un choix dans Stanley Parable? Parce que bah là je suis obligé de préparer le dîner, je peux pas juste m'en aller.
As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable.
D'accord, c'est bien à l'intérieur de ma tête, ou du moins c'est ce que le narrateur essaie de me faire croire, moi j'y crois pas encore.
It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over,
And again,
wishing
and again,
beyond
and
hope
again,
that
and
it would
again,
never end,
with a spoon.
that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time.
Je t'aime, mais tu n'es pas très bronzé comme femme. Bon, c'est pas ce set-là.
But there is no answer.
Oh.
How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one.
Waouh, c'est plutôt profond. Non, j'ai pas envie d'aller me coucher.
And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
Mais oui, mais c'est ce que j'essaye de faire depuis.
You see? Can he just not hear me?
Ok, bon bah c'était Z et j'étais en train d'avancer, donc
Every
Z.
second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself. How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself?
Appuyez 2 fois, veuillez appuyer sur 2 pour ne pas vous poser la moindre question. Mais si, j'ai envie de me poser des questions. Bon bah, on va pas se poser la moindre question
I
alors.
can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again.
Veuillez mourir.
And Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button. And I
Ok, je suis mort? Bon bah, c'est des choses qui arrivent. Et bon, j'ai à peu près compris ce que le narrateur essayait de nous dire, c'est qu'on a tous une destinée, un chemin à suivre, et qu'apparemment on n'y peut rien. Le narrateur c'est un peu un fataliste dans l'âme. Mais moi je suis pas d'accord, on choisit son destin.
He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him.
Oui, une porte ouverte ici. Je fais un peu attention parce que je sens bien qu'il y a une porte qui va finir par s'ouvrir et qui vont nous dire oui, vous êtes tellement obnubilés par suivre le même chemin que vous faites toujours la même chose. Donc non, pour l'instant c'est pas le cas, mais... Est-ce que il y avait quoi là-bas à droite? Ah oui, c'était le mannequin. Ouais, ils vont pas... Je vais y retourner. Je pense qu'ils vont pas nous faire revivre la même scène.
The lounge was grand, majestic, perhaps too majestic. Like a combination of a mutt but eager to get back
je commence à la connaître cette salle, hein, il faut arrêter de la décrire. Bonjour la salle avec la lumière au bout du tunnel.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Mais j'ai pas été viré parce que je suis dans ma tête, je suis en train de faire un
Look,
rêve.
Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her. This is it, Stanley. Your chance to
apparemment ça va être la même chose.
To put your work aside. To let her back into your life. She's been waiting. That's her stand.
Bon, si c'est la même chose, je couperai. Bon, et ben, nous voilà repartis. En fait, dès qu'on fait les mêmes choix, il y a les mêmes conséquences. Ce qui est plutôt logique, mais bon, je pensais qu'il y aurait quelque chose d'autre. Allez, c'est reparti.
Stanley had never seen the office this brightly lit. Was it a sign of something? He hoped it was. He hoped very much that it was.
Je suis en train de penser, est-ce qu'il faut que je meure 8 fois avant de voir la vraie fin du jeu?
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors,
on va lui faire
he
plaisir.
entered the door on his left.
Ok, même pas un remerciement, une félicitation.
There was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Ok, il y a quelqu'un dans le broom closet. Alors il faut embaucher quelqu'un pour synergiser le papier. Les papiers sont trop synergisés. Il faut virer le gars des papiers. Il faut embaucher quelqu'un pour virer le gars des papiers. Ok, ça paraît être une entreprise très saine. Apparemment il y a quelqu'un dans le broom closet.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Je peux prendre le balai avant? Non, c'était marqué sur le tableau qu'il y avait quelqu'un.
No choice to make, no path to follow, just an empty broom closet. No reason to still be here.
Mais si, j'ai envie de faire l'inventaire des outils, tiens. Ou de prendre le truc pour nettoyer par terre.
It was baffling that Stanley was still just sitting in the broom closet. He wasn't even doing anything. At least if there was something to interact with, he'd be justified in some way. As it is, he's literally just standing there doing sweet FA.
Bah j'écoutais ce que la voix dans ma tête disait. C'est déjà pas mal.
Are you really still in the broom closet? Standing around doing nothing? Why? Please offer me some explanation here. I'm genuinely confused.
J'attends juste que tu me dises de sortir. S'il te plaît. Allez.
You do realize there's no choice or anything in here, right? If I'd said Stanley walked past the broom closet, at least you would have had a reason for exploring it to find out. But it didn't even occur to me because literally this closet is of absolutely no significance to the story whatsoever.
C'est à peu près exactement ce que je me dis à chaque fois qu'il y a un choix à faire. Est-ce que je suis pas en train de manquer quelque chose? Il faut que j'aille voir. Et du coup, ça force à désobéir, c'est la curiosité.
Maybe when you go talk about this with your friend, you'll say, "Oh, did you get the broom closet ending? The broom closet ending was mine." I heard your friend was concerning.
La fin du placard à balais. C'est X-Day. Elle est trop bien.
Stanley was fat and ugly and really, really stupid. He probably only got the job because of a family connection. That's how stupid he is. That or with drug money. Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Je regrette vraiment pas d'être venu dans ce placard à balai.
Well, I've come to a very definite conclusion about what's going on right now. You're dead. You got to this broom closet, explored it a bit, and were just about to leave because there's nothing here, when a physical malady of some sort shut down your central nervous system and you collapsed on the keyboard.
Eh ben c'est exactement
Well, in
ça.
a situation like this, the responsible thing is to alert someone nearby so as to ensure that your body is taken care of
Bon, y a le
before
temps.
it begins to decompose.
Il va y avoir la rigidité cadavérique avant.
Anyone who happens to be nearby, the person at this computer is dead. He or she has fallen prey to any number of your countless human physiological vulnerabilities. It's indicative of the long-term sustainability of your species. Please remove their corpse from the area and instruct another human to take their place at the computer, making sure they understand basic first-person video game mechanics and filling them in on the history of narrative tropes in video gaming, so that the irony and insightful commentary of this game is not lost on them. All right, when you've done that, just step out into the hallway.
Ok, bon, une chance que je sois en train de record, les gens pourront entendre mes dernières paroles avant que je me sois effondré mort sur mon clavier et que je ne sois pas capable de sortir du placard à balai. Et oui, j'espère franchement que quelqu'un continuera ce jeu à ma place parce que d'aussi loin que je puisse être en étant mort, je continuerai de regarder pour savoir quelle est la réponse à la fin de ce jeu. Bon bref.
Second player, it's good to have you on board. I guarantee you can't do any worse than the person who came before you.
Eh oh, doucement, monsieur le narrateur, là, c'est vraiment méchant.
Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Allez, on va voir le papa. Waouh, la classe. Il y a même des petits imprimés comme chez les grands-mères. Alors, exécutif bathroom. Ok, la salle de bain du patron. Hey, je suis le patron, je suis le patron. Oui.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
J'ai pas écouté ce qu'il disait. J'ai juste vu
Stanley
28,
just sat around twiddling his
45.
thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
Allez, on va essayer le classique. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Oh.
2845.
Oh. 6.
Stanley simply began entering random codes into the keypad, knowing full well the sheer statistical unlikelihood that this would ever result in a correct combination. If he knew that the combo was 2845, it would be another... But it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself.
Wow.
And Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
Il a mis le doigt sur le fait que j'allais pas trouver le code par hasard. Ça m'a décidé à mettre le bon, parce que je le savais, je ne sais pas comment. Je pense que j'aurais pas pu trouver tout seul. Ou alors ça aurait été un très long let's play, pas intéressant. Bon bah on va aller vers la pièce rouge. Je pense que si on suit le chemin que le narrateur nous indique, on va vraiment arriver à la fin. Peut-être qu'en fait, il est sympa. Peut-être qu'en fait, c'est vraiment la voix dans notre tête qui nous veut du bien et qui pense à la voix qui nous parle. Enfin, comme il disait tout à l'heure, j'ai pas réussi à trouver les mots.
Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Parce que Stanley est en train de s'habituer au choix, à mon avis. Que dès qu'on s'habitue au choix, on veut encore plus de choix. D'anchois. C'est bon les anchois.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Escape. Bon, on va continuer par là.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What
No,
horrible secret
pas
did
possible.
this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Mais bon sang, mais c'est une surprise totale, on n'est jamais entré dans cette partie du bâtiment. On n'est jamais allé sur la passerelle là-haut par exemple. Jamais. Bon bah on va activer la vidéosurveillance.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Ah bah là, la révélation me laisse sans voix. Enfin, avec assez de voix pour vous parler encore, mais waouh, ça fait un peu Big Brothers. C'est très orwellien. Et le pauvre 104 s'est encore fait virer. À quoi ça sert ça?
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
Eh oui, peut-être que c'est la société qui nous pousse à avoir une vie aussi monotone.
He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
Enfin, en attendant, je suis arrivé ici en suivant les ordres d'une voix dont je ne sais pas la provenance, donc oui, ma vie est en effet sous les ordres de quelqu'un.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life.
Mais non, je pourrais m'en servir pour moi-même.
Dismantle the controls once and for all.
Non, je veux pas les détruire, je veux m'en servir. Allez, allume. Allume. J'adore l'interface de ces machines, c'est assez sommaire. Ploup. 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 Bon, apparemment on peut pas allumer. Je vais monter là-haut. En même temps monter en bas. Ah bon, bref, vous voyez le principe. 4, ouais. Ok, à quoi ça servait? Bâtiment comme ça, avec plein de pièces cachées et assez mystérieux, ça me rappelle vraiment Portal, mais dans un style un peu moins éclairé. Facility Power, ça me rappelle vraiment le moment où on devait désactiver GLaDOS en appuyant sur le bouton. Bon, je pense que j'ai pas le choix.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Non.
Oh,
J'appuie sur on.
Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control?
Bien sûr que c'est ça que je veux.
Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say, 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what all this means. I barely know where to start.
Eh ben, j'ai l'impression que j'ai fait le mauvais choix.
A moment of solace before you're obliterated. All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them.
Allez,
I
vas-y.
erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My
Ok,
goodness,
donc c'est des
only
univers
34
parallèles en gros.
seconds left.
Enfin, des
But I'm
tests
enjoying
parallèles.
this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock. Why not?
Je le savais.
These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley?
J'ai
Is
tout
it
mon
that you have
problème,
no
j'ai tout mon
idea
temps.
where
moi.
you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think
C'est
that,
à peu
Stanley?
près.
That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you...
C'est vraiment
Take
très
a look
bien
at the
fait
clock,
ça.
Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending here, just you being blown to pieces.
Oui, mais monsieur le narrateur, tu as oublié de donner de la punitivité dans ton jeu, donc au pire, si je meurs, je reviendrai et je ferai un autre choix.
It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say happily ever.
Bonne année!